All right, welcome to Talking Business, and today we're looking at the sector that ensures mobility of people from place to place, and that is the transportation sector. We do know that COVID-19 has been around for some months now, and it has dealt a very big blow to many sectors of the economy. So let's look at the impact of the pandemic on the transportation sector. I have with me Dr. Osaze Iyo. He's an economist. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Okay, transportation sector. When we say transportation sector, to the layman out there, it may just seem like, okay, a bus getting me to where I'm going to. What are the subsectors of the transportation sector?
Okay, thank you. As you said, the transportation sector, it's a generic name. You have various subsectors. You have the shipping, you have air, which is the most common, sort of in terms of its reach. It can go to different countries of the world. You have the road transport, which we all are used to. Okay. And we have the railway. You know, those are the major transport subsectors of the transportation industry. Yes, so that's it. Okay,
so how has COVID-19 impacted the subsectors? Let's begin with aviation.
Okay. COVID-19 has been a pandemic that has hit the economy as a whole. I would want to do a small introduction. Okay. Because most times when we say the economy, it looks like the economy sounds like one big masquerade. But the economy is made up of sub-sectors. It's small components of the economy that make up this full economy that we know about. In economics, there's a general way, so that even the market woman, the layman understands what economy is about. Okay. So it's easy for us to relate this pandemic to how bad it has hit the economy. There's a notation, it's an equation that we use to summarize the economy. You have Y equals C plus I plus G plus X minus M. C is the consumption, household, what do we consume? Okay. I is investment, okay. G is government, X exports, M imports. So Y, which is GDP growth, which is like the economy. So it simply means that if you say Y is equal to this, so it means when this component C, I, G, X, M is increasing, you expect Y, which is growth in the economy, to also increase, and vice versa. So C, during this lockdown, let's ask ourselves, has consumption increased or reduced? It has definitely reduced, because there have been lockdowns. Yes. There have been reduction in spending, because most of us, there's uncertainty. Some have lost their job. Some are even in job, but technically they don't even know if they are employed. And also uncertainty about consumption, they've technically reduced consumption. Investment, I, also has reduced, because now no company is going to open a new branch. No company is borrowing loans to increase or buy new investment, so it has also reduced. The lockdown has even technically meant that all companies are closed down. So exports reduced very, very well. The non-oil sector has reduced. Oil, we know the story. We hear ships touring all over the sea, literally begging for buyers. So exports has reduced, imports has reduced. It's just G, government, which seems to, and it's because of their capacity to borrow. So they have this capacity to borrow, so it's increasing, but what's the increase is debts. They are taking loans from IMF, World Bank, China, and so on. So ordinarily, we expect that if C, consumption, investment, exports, import, which is the major subsectors of it, has fallen, then we of course expect that GDP, which is economy, should have fallen also. So the transport sector, we can put it in services, which is aviation. Services, which the aviation industry falls under. Generally, the aviation system subsector has been worse hit, because we know human beings carry the virus, and human beings are moved by the transportation sector. In fact, almost all the countries where you had these cases of COVID-19, it came through the airlines. Yes. Exactly. So it has been worse. So it was inevitable that it should have been closed down. Now you have planes hanged in hangars, closed down literally. So the aviation sector has been hit because of the capital-intensive nature of the aviation sector. The banks generally had a meeting with CBN, was it last month, And they complain that the aviation sector is owing them 1 trillion naira cumulatively. The aviation sector also, most of the planes you see in these airlines, they are not owned by them. They lease it. So it means that during this period, the lease contract continues. So they have to pay for these leases. The interest rates they are owing to the banks, for example, let's assume an airline took a loan of 5 billion from a bank. So ordinarily, he's to pay probably 10%, which is even low. But sometimes they take as many as 15%, 20% interest rate. He's to be paying 500 million every month for this period that is not working, that the airlines are not working. And the Minister of Aviation, Mr. Hedi Sirika, he was very, very clear with his statement. He said that the aviation sector has lost $24 billion, or naira rather, during just 1 month of not working. He said 7 billion is lost to the individual airlines. The agencies lose like 10 billion. Catering services, ground takings, about 3-4 billion. So cumulatively, 24 billion each month. So they are worse hit by the pandemic. And it's not just a sector that when there's a reopening, you just expect them to pick up like that.
Immediately.
They have to go through. So it has hit them very badly. So the banks, they will still expect them to pay interest during this period when they are not working. So the aviation sector has been worse hit.
Okay, we've talked about the other sectors that are in the transportation sector, and you just mentioned that the aviation sector has been worst hit of all the subsectors in the transportation sector. Now, for others that have been operating, road transport, although there's been no interstate travel in Nigeria for quite a while now, but intra-city movement has been ongoing in some states. And then there's been guidelines for that as well. So there's been some form of adaptation. In this sector, who's paying for the adaptation?
Of course, every smart businessman would hardly ever take the burden of any increase. So it's expected, as we even see, that it's transferred almost completely to the consumers, consumers of the transport sector, especially I talked about road transport.
Okay, that's for road. Yeah. Now for aviation, government has said they will start operation 21st of June, and they've asked for 50% passenger capacity. So again, I'm asking, who's going to be paying for the adaptation? Because airline, the aviation sector, as you've said, is capital intensive, and they already owe a lot. So if you're giving a guideline that they should operate at 50% passenger capacity, who's going to bear that cost?
We also expect that they will transfer it completely to the passengers. That's the expectation, because they have their own. In fact, as I said, the minister said about half of these airlines, he was very categorical, would not recover, would not come back after the pandemic. So they are already dealing with a deficit in interest rates and that they have to pay. In fact, they also have external loans. So I don't expect them to, in fact, because the guidelines have been out already. They said after every trip, each plane should fumigate their planes after every trip, and they should provide sanitizers for the passengers. So that's enough cost on them. So I expect it to be transferred wholeheartedly.
But would that not affect the number of people who will be willing to use flights?
Yeah, that's already a problem in its own self, because there's already a loss of confidence in the aviation sector already. You would have people who, before they take any flight, they would have to research, Google on the situation of things in the country they are going to. But the good part of it is that the aviation sector, by its very nature, has sort of selected its clients or its customers already. It's not an everybody transport system. So it's more like a select group already who use it. So we would expect, I don't think the rich man is going to get poor with the pandemic. So it's still a situation where the aviation sector knows its own, and its own knows the aviation sector. So I don't think the reduction, the demand would reduce significantly. I don't think so. Yeah.
Okay, others have been asking for stimulus package to help boost the transportation sector. Nasima has also said that government should make the transportation sector, travel and hospitality industry to be the first recipient of stimulus package. Now, which of them do you think should get stimulus package first? And in what form should the stimulus come?
Yeah, the stimulus packages, I think every sector of the economy will be asking for a stimulus this period because it has hit everybody. Almost all the sectors are on ground zero. Almost all the sectors are on ground zero. So for the aviation sector, I would think that because of its contribution to the economy, so it should get more attention. It ordinarily gets more attention. And having said the obligations that they are owing to the banks and to, in fact, their external creditors, I think they would normally or naturally be the ones to be agitated or that will need this stimulus more. In what form it should take? We have talked about bailout because generally during a recession, the most common way to get out of a recession is spending your way out of recession. Okay. You hear it, the government has to spend this, and there's really no alternative to it. You have to spend your way out of recession because everywhere is down, the consumption, investment is down, so government is ordinarily expected to be the one to give out this stimulus. But what form should it take? I have not really been in support of just throwing funds at these sectors as stimulus. Stimulus could take the form of some smart thinking. I would think that we would expect that the greatest burden right now is this interest rates which they owe to the banks. Okay. So imagine an airline owing like 500 million every month to the bank. So I would expect that CBN will probably call the banks and say, how do we help this sector? So in January, we saw when CBN gave their guidelines and asked the banks to increase their cash reserve ratio from 22.5% to 27.5%, which means their liquidity, the amount of cash they have, has reduced. So there can be an arrangement. Okay, we would reverse this policy so that you have more cash available with you. Then the interest rate which these airlines are owing the bank, okay, let's see, can we push some further? Can we, CBN probably say, okay, we'll pay 50% of this interest for you. Then give the banks, we are not saying forgive them, give them probably 3-6 months, exactly. So when they are on their feet, they are able to pay it. Then also we could look at ground takings and the other they pay at the airlines. We could probably give some 6 months also waivers for payments. We could also look at direct access to Forex by these airlines. You know, that's the thing that NNPC enjoys from CBN. They get the Forex at the official rate and it's very available to them because the aviation sector is externally oriented. They get most of their, everything is imported from other countries. Even the technical know-how for repairs, the parts, there's nothing that is produced here. So they use Forex to facilitate these transactions. So CBN could say, okay, we'll give you directly at the official rate and make it available to you. So there are other smart ways. Even the government FRS could also give them tax holidays from their company income tax. Yes, so there are other, AMCON could also come in, with the Asset Management Corporation of Nigeria could also come in, buy into some of their equities, so that at this time it gives them some liquidity, some access to liquidity. Then on the part of the aviation, the airlines too, I think they should also bring out some liquidity strategy management. Yeah, many of the CEOs have been accused of mismanagement of funds. So this period, I expect an intense research and development. They should be able to, the Brazilian aviation sector is just as old as the Nigerian sector, and they are making airlines. The Chinese aviation sector is something of the same time frame as the Nigerian aviation, and they are making airlines. Dubai aviation sector just started about 10 years ago, and they are making component parts of air. So we should also, the airlines on their own, should carry out intense research and development. Let them produce some component parts so that you are not importing everything. And you are saving Forex. Okay. Also, they could also look at getting a lease, probably the country could help them, the nation, get a lease financing company. that could give them finances at low interest rates.
Okay.
Because they are paying double, probably at a single digit,
okay.
5%, 6%, because the loans that they take from these commercial banks, 20%, 50%, so it's very high.
Too high for them.
Yeah, so those are, the airlines on their own doing their own, then governments playing their part too.
Okay. What about in the area of job security? Because for some of the workers of airlines, they've not been operating for about a month or more. There's a possibility of layoff and even cessation of salaries. Then let's also look at Nasima's suggestion to government to actually have a national carrier at this time. Do you think that in any way would help in terms of job security?
Yeah, job security. That has been the major concern for these stimulus packages that they expect government to give to them. Yeah, because so far, in fact, right now, 80% of the airlines have already technically, they've asked their workers to go on compulsory leave without pay. So technically, there is already layoff of workers. So in fact, these stimulus packages that are to be given to the airlines, for me, should be with some terms and conditions, because that is the public interest aspect of the whole thing. Keep your staff. It's possible, I really don't expect this is going to be really terrible for them. So there might be some salary cuts, but keep your staff, because it would also help to boost aggregate demand. During a recession like during an economic turndown, like we are not yet into recession, but it's likely, during an economic downturn like this, the major and most essential thing that has to go on in the economy is aggregate demand. There has to be increasing demand. I have to be buying something. I have to be buying yams, buying noodles to ensure that the economy remains afloat. If not, by the time demand reduces, then the production also reduces. And what's GDP? GDP is a measure of production of goods and services. So obviously the economy will go down. So keeping the workers should be very important. The national carrier issue, yes, it has been a recurring decimal, because the problem with the aviation sector is that most of the airlines are foreign owned. So there is massive repatriation of profits. So every profit they make is taken out. So with a national carrier, it's easier to keep the funds, keep their own. You can't tell a foreign carrier, I'm not calling any name now, you can't make it mandatory that you must employ Nigerians. But when you have a national carrier, it's easy to carry out these policies of retention of Nigerians and so on. So we expect that the national carrier should come afloat anytime soon.
Quickly, in a minute before we leave here, the road transport subsector, which is the one that caters for the ordinary man. The federal government has made some reduction in the price of pump price of petrol. What do you think that has been enough relief in that subsector?
Yeah, ordinarily, we expect that should be a great relief, because most times you hear the complaints is that fuel is high and so, but the reduction in my own mind has been marginal. But in any case, these bus drivers or transport sector, whichever, they are almost lords to themselves, because we saw the PTF guidelines that were brought out. There were guidelines like, as a passenger coming to your bus, you sanitize the driver, the passenger's hands. You don't take more than 2 passengers on a row and so on. Fumigate after every, but there was no adherence to it. So the road transport sector is largely unregulated. So I don't expect that it would lead to any reduction. And in any case, because you say they shouldn't take the number of capacity, so it's the reduction in price is more like a compensation for the reduction in passengers we have.
All right, this is as much as we can take on the show today. Thank you very much, Dr. Osaze Iyohu, for coming on the show today. We hope to have you next time.
It's my pleasure.
All right, my name is Blessing H. Until next week, be good to yourself. Stay safe.